Good morning, grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka blenderhd, blenderhd. Follow me there on Twitter. And this is the show where we get up in the morning, right? I'm a night guy, so like this is. I mean, it's kind of early for me. I got up early. I got up at like 9 today. So the apple juice is from earlier. So you have to really try to keep it cold today here on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button. Give me the thummy thumbs to keep the apple juice somewhat. I mean, it's kind of warm as it is, right? It's from like 2 or 3 hours ago. But you could do it. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live, because this is the show in the morning. This is what I do in the morning. Go check out Results DB with the contests from yesterday. See if there are any interesting constructions that some of the top players did in large field contests. We start looking at today's slate. Today's slate is what? We got 10 games or something. Who knows? Who knows what it'll end up being? Who knows? It could be 9 games. It could 17 people could be out. We never know. So that's why we don't necessarily focus on picks and plays and stuff for today's slate. Go through some strategy questions. Feel free to post that in the chat. I see everyone here on YouTube. Meat Plow, Mr. Plow's here in the morning. Mr. Plow, thanks for showing up. Card Fan, Matthew P., DJ Cicero, Sam Deal, Kevin Copeland, Kagan Hopkins, Daniel Hutchings, Matt Meir. I feel like Romper Room with the little mirror. I don't know. Is that too old of a reference for most of you? But whatever, you get it. We got all the people in the chat room. Feel free to post your questions. I'll scroll back, so don't worry. So you don't have to post it a million times. I'll be talking a lot for the next hour or so. Little shorter show today. I always have meetings on Wednesday with the Lineup HQ team. So maybe we don't go an entire hour today. But yesterday showed how fragile projections could be when it comes to allocating minutes. And you should take this in mind. Keep this in mind for future slates. We had Eric Pascal as chalk, which never goes well. I mean, it doesn't even matter, right? Didn't matter. Even if he played 32 minutes, it probably wouldn't have gone well, right? It never works out, but we do it anyway. Wiseman is out for the next 2 weeks or so. And we expected, especially with the no front court depth for the Warriors, that we'd see Draymond Green at the 5 some more. We'd see Eric Pascal at the 4 and the 5 some more. But Justin Toscano-Anderson kind of filled in the 5 role, and Pascal his role didn't change. He was the direct backup to Draymond Green. And if he projected his minutes that he was going to get minutes at the 5, obviously he didn't get them. So it's those are the types of fragile situations there are. Same thing for Anthony Simons. Right, we saw before lock, we had Derrick Jones Jr. was out, and then who else got ruled out? We got plenty of people ruled out for the Blazers. Hood started, but you didn't expect Hood to play more than maybe 26 to 28 minutes. He ended up playing 35 minutes, and Simons only played like 12 minutes. But it turns out afterwards, we heard from Stotts that Simons actually had an injury. Right, that's why he played for like 3 minutes in the first half. 3 minutes in like this first rotation, and then came out like almost immediately. And apparently it's because he had a bit of an injury thing, so they kept his minutes low. But in those situations where we're trying to basically predict the rotation, the new rotations of a team when certain players are out, and we get these backup guys that are typically cheap, right? Eric Pascal was $3,500 on DraftKings. Anthony Simons was a little bit up, 43. But I mean, he was playing like 28, 29 minutes even before the Blazers only had like 8 bodies to play. So how would you expect him to go back down to 12? Well, these are wide range of outcomes types of players, okay? When the minutes volatility is high, we like the usage. Okay, we can predict the usage. But the minutes are going to be wide range. Like Vooch, you don't have to worry about that, right? You don't have to worry about Vooch. Don't have to worry about Westbrook pretty much, right? You don't have to worry about Jaylen Brown. You don't have to worry, even Cole Anthony, when they had Aaron Gordon out. Even guys like DeAnthony Melton, you don't have to worry about. He's going to get at least 20 minutes. Maybe he'll get 26. but that'll be a range in and of itself. But sometimes these guys where it's like, well, this guy's out and this guy's in, and the rotation may change, and we can predict the most likely outcome, the most likely allocated minutes. But that doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So sometimes taking advantage of the field's overconfidence in the minutes projection is a benefit. So if you didn't take Pascal last night, if you didn't take Simons last night, you got a big leg up on the field. The fadeaway, 34%, 25%, you add that up, and that's 60% of lineups had one of those two guys in it. Right? Kevon Looney got injured. Right? He was 19% owned in the fadeaway. I mean, he was fine. He was 3,400. But I mean, he would have ended up probably somewhere close to 20 points, 22 points. But he got injured, and it still didn't matter for Pascal. Right? Just meant more Justin Toscano Anderson. And he was barely owned. Right? 0.27%. Right? None of these guys had him. Because he wasn't even in the rotation before. So, I mean, Pascal was 34%. Toscano Anderson was 0.27%. We had Anthony Simons at 25%, but like Robert Covington was 7%. Carmelo Anthony, 23%. Okay, so he was owned a little bit more. Hood, 12%. So in those types of situations where the field may be overconfident in the minutes, not necessarily the usage, but just in the minutes, that the minutes volatility was going to be high. Because this is normal. This is a normal strategic evaluation that you do for GPPs, like regardless of that. That the more volatile the player is, the more likely that you should be above or below what the field is going to judge it at. A very volatile player that's going to be chalk, maybe that's a good player to find leverage on. But a high volatile player that's going to barely be owned, that's when you want to take advantage of that high variance. We saw yesterday, the day before, with Malik Monk, right? Everyone piled onto LaMelo Ball, right? He's going to start with Rozier out. And you knew that Monk was going to be the first guard off the bench, and he was fairly cheap. But everyone's piling into LaMelo Ball, and Malik Monk sitting there at 12% versus LaMelo Ball was like 60%. Doesn't make LaMelo Ball a bad play. Doesn't make Malik Monk the better play. It's just that the disparity of ownership between the two means that maybe you take a shot at the more volatile player from a minutes perspective, right? It's a lot of times, if choosing between two players in GPP, that I'm more likely to take a high usage player that may walk into extra minutes rather than the opposite. Than a guy that already gets a ton of minutes and just has to walk into usage. Because typically that doesn't happen as much, right? You can play a guy 35 minutes. He normally plays 35 minutes, and then this guy is out, and you're like, oh, but maybe the usage goes to him. Probably doesn't. He's already playing 35 minutes at, 0.64 fantasy points per minute. Like, what's the chances that he's going to automatically turn into a one point per minute, fantasy point per minute type of player? Probably not. As much as the guy off the bench, possibly. That's a 1 fantasy point per minute player that normally plays 18 minutes. Maybe he walks into 24, 26, right? We see that with Jordan Clarkson, these 6-man off the bench, Terrence Ross, those types of guys. But their minutes are going to be volatile. So a lot of times when they're chalk, I'm looking more likely to not play them in a lineup than play them in a lineup. Doesn't mean I didn't play Pascal or Simons last night. I played them both in my cash lineup. I played them both in cash on DraftKings and still made money. Right? We look at the cash game spreadsheet, which you could see, you could track with me. Theoryofdfs.com. Go to tracker.theoryofdfs.com. Clean sweep, 2 days in a row. We're rallying. We're going to the moon, baby. Right? GameStop is going down. My cash lineup's going up. So, I mean, even, playing 10% and going up the past 3 days, I mean, it's nearly doubled. I mean, maybe 80%. Swept on all three sites. So now we're up to $13,137 profit. You can see the graph here. To the moon, baby. To the moon, baby. There you go. I mean, it'll come back down. It'll go up and down. We're positive on all three sites now. little bit underneath the expected, to beat the effective rake on DraftKings, but that hopefully that'll go up. Or doing well in cash. So I played Pascal and Simons in cash games on DraftKings. Played Pascal on FanDuel, still made it. Still got over the line. Played neither on Yahoo, and that got me over the line there. Diversification. I mean, that I always preach that. So I'm not playing the same exact players on all three sites because the salaries are different, the positional construction is different. So yeah, if Pascal and FanDuel may have killed me, and then I still win on DraftKings, and then you don't make, like, it was a $2,200 increase, so it ends up being like an $800 increase. I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We don't need hockey stick growth. Just keep this going up over time. So I'll play 10% tonight. That's about 3,300. And let's see what happens. Maybe I bomb all three and then it comes back down. I mean, this is a chart. It'll go up, it'll go down. Just glad I'm above the line of 0. So that's all that matters. So looking at the players from yesterday, let me look in the YouTube chat first to see if you got any questions. Brandon Stinson asks, do you ever play single game slates? If so, what strategies do you use for those? Typically, I don't, not to the playoffs. I mean, I can. Just I'm only one person. I have to. There's only a certain amount of time that I have. But essentially, if you're playing large field contests for the single game slates, you have to find a way to get unique. Doesn't mean you have to be nuts, but find a way in the NBA showdowns to play it just to Toscano Anderson. Someone in our Discord, RotoGrinders Discord, which is a premium offering here. I'm in there all the time. So sign up. Click on the link in the description. You get $10 off your first month. But someone in there, won a bunch of, I think he came in first with Toscano Anderson at like 2% owned in Showdown. Like, there's aren't that many options in Showdown. How did he end up only being 2% owned? Well, there you go. He was unique enough. Had Curry in the captain. Toscano Anderson got enough points. Curry, there you go. You're done. Right? Pretty easy. But you have to find a way to get unique. If you're just going to play all the best plays, the optimal type of lineup, large field GPPs are probably not the way to go. Chris is investing. I assume that's not his last name. Super thank you for all of your education. You have changed my DFS mindset. Took down the quarter tournament last night. I know it's low stakes, but that's where I'm practicing. That's fine. That's fine. Don't be ashamed, Chris, Mr. Investing. You're obviously investing. It's in your name. So you start small. That's what you should be doing. That's how I started. So you took down the quarter tournament last night. So that'll build your bankroll, and now you can start moving up. Not immediately. Don't immediately go, play the Thunderdome. I mean, you probably didn't win that much money. But yeah, so don't feel ashamed that you would just like, I know it's not a lot, but I took down the quarter tournament. But great. You got to start somewhere. I think if you're on Twitter, if you're in the DFS community, people think that, if it's not 6 figures, you can't post a screenshot or something. Be proud of what you've done. It's hard to win at this game, no matter what stakes you play, especially larger field contests. Who cares if first place was $1,000, $500, $100? Who cares? That adds to your profit. Are you getting better? Then fine, be proud of it. I'm not going to screenshot shame people. I mean, I didn't even post a screenshot. I'm more to shame you that you didn't even use your real last name, because we all know your last name isn't investing. Come on. Kagan Hopkins says, I've been listening to you for a while, and I'm getting better at playing the right value plays, which doesn't exist. There's no right plays. But I always seem to miss the ceiling games for the best players. Well, great. That's the story of my life. It's the story of my life. You didn't have Fred VanVleet last night. Sorry, can't win. But you have to take a shot on those players. If you notice, the ceiling players, we had Curry last night in some contests at like 5% owned. Fred VanVleet was 15% owned. Was there any specific reason that you're like, I need to play VanVleet tonight. I need to play Curry tonight? No. But these are ceiling level players. So if everyone's going on Westbrook, everyone's going on Vooch, there's nothing that says that Curry can't have a big game. There's nothing that says VanVleet can't have a big game, or Brogdon, or Kawhi, or Paul George, or Lowry. So take a shot on those guys. That's what I did in GPP last night. I had a good night in GPP also. I got, I think, 4th in the Showtime or something like that. 5th, maybe. I took Miles Turner. He was less than 1% owned in the Showtime. He put up like 48 points or something. Less than 1%. I didn't even realize he would be that low owned. But I played Vooch in that lineup. I'm like, how do I get different by playing Vooch in my lineup? Well, I got different by playing Turner in the other center spot. And I played Conley over Gobert. And Conley was like 1.7% owned. I didn't think these guys were going to be that low owned. I thought I'd get them at 5 to 10%. And that was my leverage. Conley plus Turner. And then the rest of my lineup was just chalk. Vooch, and I had Jaylen Brown, I had Pascal, I had Melton, you know, I mean, there you go. That's all the leverage I needed for a contest of that size. I obviously I was over leveraged because I didn't realize Turner was going to come in at like 0.87% owned in like a 300-man contest, but it worked out. It ended up working out. But yeah, if I knew that beforehand, I probably wouldn't have gotten that nuts. But essentially, that was my leverage, the Conley Turner combination there. But yeah, but you have to take a shot. Like what made you like Miles Turner? Like nothing. He projected okay. He had a smash percentage of like 18%, which was not horrible on the slate. It was okay. And his ownership was nothing. Like, I didn't see why people were playing Vooch. People were playing Looney. People were playing Green in the center spot or something. Sabonis, Gobert. So I'm like, what centers are going to be lost? Well, I'm going to play Turner. But of course, I didn't play Turner and Sabonis together. So that was my Sabonis pivot in that lineup. And instead of playing Gobert, you play Conley. So I'm playing the center. I'm playing the center that's leverage off of the chalk forward center combination, Sabonis. And then I'm playing the guard that's leverage off of Gobert, which I thought would be a little bit more owned than 15%, I guess. I think it was ended up being like 22 in the small field stuff. But that's what you have to do. There's no specific reason. Well, why'd you play Mike Conley? Why not? It's the Pistons. He's playing the Pistons. 6,400. He can put up 40 points. The smash percentage was like 22%. I'm like, okay. It could happen tonight. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't happen today. I played Fred VanVleet in lineups with Vucevic. Seemed to make sense. You play either VanVleet or Lowry. Because a lot of people were playing Vooch. But no one was playing, barely anyone was playing the Raptors. So I'll play Vooch. This is the way for me to get my Vooch lineups to be different. By playing VanVleet in those lineups. Those lineups worked out. But why VanVleet? But why not? I mean, sometimes it just comes down to that. Why not? He didn't project poorly. He didn't project great. He had like a 25% smash percentage. Okay, maybe this is the time. Maybe today's the day. It's going to happen 25% of the time, according to our model. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe it's the next game. But today it could be. He's 15% owned. Seems plus EV to me. But you could say that about so many other players. Make a decision. Michael Lingenfelter says, big thanks to Contest Selection Podcast the other day. Yeah, me and Eric Beinford do the Theory of DFS podcast. You could find that on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We do it once a week, typically on Tuesdays. A little bit macro, high level, maybe a little bit more advanced, application-based stuff than I do here. But go subscribe to that. So we did a whole thing on contest selection, like really, really like the extremes of contest selection. It was timely on late last night's slates, according to Michael. I was able to get a 50% return when my lineups were on the line, barely making it. Right. Diversifying your action. Tyler Voss asks, I play mostly 118 to 237 man winner take all contests. Okay, that's high variance. How much median projection should be sacrificed for ownership and leverage? 2, 10, 20. There's no specific number. It depends on the slate. You're looking in relation to other players on the slate. Like, you're not going to give up 20 points if like there's no screaming value or anything, because the difference between lineups is going to be very small. When there's screaming value, when there's, guys that are 4 or 5 points, strongly projected over their median, then in order to get leverage off of them, you're going to have to give up more median. So there's no specific number. It's always going to be slate dependent. Let's go through the chat some more before we go over some things. Like Kai Roach says, I basically always take shots on dudes like Jokic and Luka and Embiid if they're under 10% owned. Yeah, absolutely. I look at that myself. I go, what studs, what even 7K, 8K players are just sitting there. Like they don't project well, but they don't project poorly, but they're just sitting there that's like on a 10-game slate at 3% owned. And go, can I play the cheap chalk now and then play that guy instead? So I'm not looking to necessarily like play a 3% owned Steph Curry and then also fade the value chalk. Like that's a way to get away from a Westbrook. Like there's going to be Vucevic and Westbrook yesterday were the ones that that was the chalk, but that's the expensive part of the chalk. So how do I could play, instead of playing Westbrook, I play Curry, but I still play Pascal in that lineup. I still play, a Simmons. I still play a Looney in that lineup. I end up still eating the cheaper chalk in those lineups, usually. But now you're pivoting off of the higher owned expensive players. And that's a way that you could build leverage into your lineup while still not giving up all that much median projection. Let's see. Jake B says, I believe it was last week reviewed Squirrel Patrol pretty in depth. Do you believe the best way to gain leverage on the field is by stacking 3 to 4 players from the same team? It could be on a specific slate. If you noticed last week when I went over his lineups, like he even said on Twitter, it's like he did it for that slate. Like it's not going to be the same every slate. He thought it was a good strategy for that slate. He thought he could get good leverage by doing it on that specific slate. But on other slates, he doesn't. There's no one thing that you always do. I mean, that's the main thing that why do I do the show every morning? If you did the same things every day and you could make money, I don't do the show once. They'd put it on repeat. Why do we need Devin here to do it? They just press the button to do yesterday's show. It's the same thing. No, of course not. You have to think for yourself on a specific slate. What is the best direction to go? And we see, even amongst top players, there are multiple different directions to go. We have Forsaken here, who's like, finally, I'm going to play Jeremy Grant at 8% owned after being on Twitter and saying how dumb it is to play Jeremy Grant when he goes off of that much. But he happened to be low owned on this slate. Right? He had some Lowry at 10%. But there's other people that like Westbrook, Micah J, under on Westbrook. Played a bunch of Lowry, 10% owned. Played Gorgie Jeng. I mean, look at this. Kelly Oubre at 7%, 6% owned. How did they get different in their lineups? Aaron Baines, Gary Trent, even at 6K. Kem Birch. I mean, how can I build lineups still with chalky players, but still get different enough and have a different construction that other people will have? So yeah, Giant Squid had plenty of Eric Pascal, but no Anthony Simons. Made a bunch of played Jeremy Lamb probably in the shooting guard spot instead. That's why he needed 47% of them. Right? Kyle Lowry, 42%. Like, look how much leverage you get over there. Kyle Anderson, right? He needed a small forward. I mean, he didn't get there. Robert Covington, right? Finding constructions. Plumlee, he had a great game. I had some Plumlee. Derrick Rose, who just DNP'd for no reason. Did you play Derrick Rose last night and just wonder, where is he? We didn't have any news about that. Just DNP, CD, gone, 0. But really, Derrick Rose scored 0 and Pascal scored 4.5. So not much of a difference there if you played one over the other. But that's why you study Results DB. You go to rotogrinders.com/resultsdb. It's free. You don't even have to be a premium member. You go to any contest. I mean, they update it typically in the mornings. And you can find all this information. You go here, you click on You know, Jim Bob won over here. They doubled. So sometimes you get this error. The lineups twice. You can take a look at the winning lineup and go, here's the winning lineup. And then you could go to the ownership column and you could select whatever players you want, whatever users. Go, what were their exposures? What did they play? To see the constructions, I don't necessarily care about the players. I care about the constructions. Yeah, obviously, Vooch, Westbrook, Pascal, Brown, Simon. Yeah, I know who the chalk is. You don't have to tell me that. Like, how did they use the chalk and still get different elsewhere? Did I go on the same paths that they did? Not everyone, not all of them. I mean, look at E. Hafner. Like, just, no, I'm going to fill my small, I'm going to pay up at small forward and build a ton of construction with Kawhi Leonard. Absolutely get it. That's why he had less Jaylen Brown, because obviously small forward. Right? How do I get off Brown and build lineups without him? Play Vooch and Leonard together. That also means it needs to find some cheapness somewhere, right? So we go down here. Couldn't play Gobert in those types of lineups. Gary Clark. There's 60% Gary Clark with 12 points. Covington, Anthony, some James Ennis, Terrence Ross, Kem Birch. So there's the center. Right, so that's leverage off of Vooch. So you have Kem Birch at 24%. Vooch, oh, he actually had some overlap. 106% total. You had a couple of lineups with Vooch and Birch together. I don't know about that, but I mean, Birch was cheap enough, I guess. Some Wanamaker even. Desmond Bain. Ken Bazemore. Well, he just was taking shots. Tyus Jones. Ish Smith. So basically, he was just trying to take shots so he didn't have to play like all the Pascal or all the Simons, all the Looney. So he could play Kawhi Leonard at 9,200 in the small forward spot. Okay. That was a viable path. One I didn't go on. But okay, I get it. How did they get different? That's what you're looking at. Where did they get leverage? What were the constructions? And you're going to find that all of them have different approaches. But it's not going to be lineups that are just like all chalk. And that's it in large field GPPs. So if you go through it, you could get ideas. Just get ideas of, oh yeah, that you're right. I could have done that. That didn't work out, but I see what they were doing there. I mean, that's what you're doing. So then in the next slate, in future slates, you could start thinking of more possibilities and not thinking in terms of players, thinking in terms of what the lineups look like. Well, he played a lot of this guy. Who cares? What did the construction look like? Micah J played less Westbrook. So how did he get different by not playing Westbrook? Didn't play Melton either as a cheap point guard, shooting guard. So you see Lowry, Grant, Oubre, Jeng. I mean, look at how many players, how much exposure he had on players that barely owned. 6%, 5% owned. Baines, Plumlee. He kind of spread it around. Gary Trent. To avoid the chalk construction. That was his approach. I get it. It's not an approach I took, but I get it. I get what he did. Feel free to hit the like button, the thumbs up button, the thummy thumbs, whatever you want to call it. Keep my apple juice. It's not cold. I can tell you it's not cold. But it's not warm. It's like room temperature. I'm going to have to get another one after the show. Let's go through the YouTube chat some more. Keep on scrolling through. Oh, let's see. Doug Sellier says, I really want to thank you for your insight and approach. You provided some great clarity over my thinking this past 3 weeks, and it's really changed the way I play DFS. Thanks. Thanks, man. Which is great. Don't get too good because I don't want you in my contests, but whatever. No problem. I like going through chat and I like talking about the compliments, right? So the podcast people are jealous. That's why I do it. So the podcast people can hear this, because you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. DFS pregame show. The RotoGrinders DFS pregame show. It's like an orange box, the artwork is. Subscribe there. You can listen to the show later. I mean, obviously, you can watch the show later here on YouTube. It's archived. It's also on the RotoGrinders website as well. But I want the podcast people, because they don't get to see the chat. So I need to mention all the compliments. Matt Mears asks, from a lineup perspective, should an 800-person contest at $20 be treated differently than an 800-person contest at $1? From a field size perspective, no. But the ownership could be different, because maybe in the higher stakes, they're sharper players. That would be the only reason. Like, it doesn't matter. If the ownership was the same, if the projected ownership and the field size was the same, you wouldn't trade it any differently. Doesn't matter. It could be a $10,000 contest. Who cares? But typically, obviously at the $1 level, restricted players like me, users that have more than $1 million of lifetime entries, can't play in it. So a lot of times the lower stakes are a bit softer. So the best plays, the best projected players, tend to be a little less owned. The chalk is a little less chalky. While at the higher stakes, the chalk tends to be chalkier. So that would be the only difference, Matt Mears. But I mean, you have to take that into account. We don't have ownership projections for like per contest size. It's general for like the large field GPP. That's what the ownership that you're looking at on RotoGrinders. That's what it's going to be. So you have to scale it up or down depending on the contest that you're in. Let's see. Okay, yeah, people are answering. They're answering my questions in the chat. We have some smart people in the YouTube chat. They didn't even have to wait for my answer. Kai Roach asks, does the skill level of the other players affect the amount of leverage you need in the tournament, regardless of field size? No. But you know that obviously the best, I said it before. The skill level means that people are more likely to identify pricing inefficiencies. The best projected players for their price are more likely to be owned. And the leverage, and people are able to build plus EV lineups better in those contests. So you need to build better lineups than that, right? And it's all depending on slate. People keep on asking, how much? There's a number. It depends on the slate. How do you determine? Well, it depends on you have to run the lineups to see what the differences between the lineups are. So right now at 10-13 projections right here, if I run 40 lineups, just nothing, no groups, no nothing, just give me the top 40 lineups based on median projections. What's the difference between 1 and 40? 1 is 301. 40 is 296. So it's like a 5-point difference. Okay? So you could give up in order to get the 300th lineup or 500th lineup or 1,000th lineup, you're obviously going to have to sacrifice more than 5 points, because the top 40 goes to 5 points. So now you know that if you have the difference between 301 and 296, this ownership, which we don't have yet this early, has to move in relation to it. So the more and more you give up median, the less and less ownership your lineup should have. And then how much ownership leverage do you need in a small field GPP? Not as much. So if the optimal is 301 and you're playing small field, maybe you don't give up more than 5 or 6 points based on this. Maybe you don't. Now, you wouldn't give that up and get no ownership in return. No, of course, you need to get an ownership discount the more and more you get off the optimal lineup. But in small field, you just don't need as much. You don't need as much leverage. You don't need as much ownership discount. Large field, you may need tons of it. So based on this, we get Maladon, Diallo, DeRozan, Justin Jackson, because we have SGA is out. Sabonis, Gordon, Jaylen Brown, and Bradley Beal. So maybe Maladon, Diallo, and Jackson maybe a little bit negatively correlated. I mean, I guess they could all get there for the prices, right? They could. So now I'm going to take a look and go, look, Jaylen Brown's in like everything. Maladon's in everything. Sabonis showing up on a bunch. DeRozan, Eric Gordon. So now I'm going to look at this and go, well, how do I get leverage? I can get leverage by not playing Brown. So I take out Brown. I get leverage by not playing Maladon. So I take him out. Let's run 40 lineups and see what it looks like if I don't play either of those two. Because I'm going to gain a lot of leverage by not playing them. What am I getting? I don't know what the ownership's going to be. So it's not in yet. 295. So I'm not giving up that much. Right? Still giving up 6 points, but not playing either of them. But that also means I have to play Justin Jackson and Hamidou Diallo and Garrison Matthews and Bradley Beal together. Not a big fan of that. Maybe you group that out. So this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at lineups. I do this every morning. Say Gordon and Oladipo, maybe you don't play together, right? So you're just looking through Dort, Diallo, and Jackson. I mean, they're doable at their prices. Baisley in here, so maybe we're going to get a lot of Thunder. A lot of Thunder, basically Thunder and Rockets. I mean, that's going to be the popular game. DeRozan, because Aldridge is out today. So we can get some Rudy Gay in there, Keldon Johnson. So that's all I'm doing is looking at this and then looking how much median am I giving up? But in relation to the ownership, I have no ownership yet, so I have no clue. But let's go back to the first build. Let's say I just don't play Jaylen Brown, and I don't mind the OKC value. Let's see what shows up. $297.8. Okay, but we still have to play all the Thunder. But we're not playing Brown. But then obviously we're going to get a bunch of Tatum in our lineups. You get DeRozan and Gay together. You get 3 OKC players together. Like some of these things may be a little bit negatively correlated, right? So we're going to go back to the first one, add Brown. So we take a look at these lineups. Maybe we make a group that I don't want to have, like we have Dort, Baisley, Horford. I'm just making up. Maladon, Jackson, Diallo. Seems like those are the main guys that we're throwing up. Maybe we don't want to play more than one of them. Maybe, right? Doesn't mean that maybe you play 2 of them. I'm just giving you an example. Maybe we don't play DeRozan and Gay together. Maybe, let's see, what other things are in here? On a 10-game slate. Gordon and Oladipo I saw. Maybe play Gordon and Oladipo. We're not going to play together. Now, this is going to limit the amount of combinations that could be made because now it's not going to make those lineups. So now I'm going to build 40 lineups like that. Right, our top optimal is 301. I don't know what the ownership is, but I just know it's 301 currently based on the projections. So now we get this type of lineup. Ish Smith and Matthews probably not playing together. Brown and Tatum, maybe you don't play together. So now you're going to go back in here and you go Smith, Matthews. Let's throw in Beal. I'm assuming the Wizards are coming up because we're expecting Russell Westbrook to sit on a back-to-back. I'm assuming that. Brown and Tatum here. Okay, and then let's keep on going. Let's see what lineups look like as of right now, as of 10:13 a.m. projections. Okay, we got Brogdon, Maladon, Matthews, Sabonis, Zeller. Okay, looking a little bit better. I guess you could play Brogdon and Sabonis together. You could. Murray and Rosen. Okay, so now we're going to go back and okay, we're going to do more of this stuff. Where's that? There we go. Let's add Dejounte Murray back into this. Let's do a Brogdon Sabonis separation. Doesn't mean that you end up with this. So you're looking to, don't take notes and go, oh, this is exactly what you do. No. Maybe you do play these 2 together. Maybe you do play 2 of these guys. I mean, I'm just showing you as an example. I'm going to run another 40 lineups. It could be 20 lineups. It could be 5 lineups. It could be 100 lineups, whatever. I do 40. It's a little bit, it's less time consuming for the sake of the show than doing 100. Okay, Gordon, Maladon, Bridges, Sabonis, Zeller, Beal, Gay, Jaylen Brown. Okay, there's 292. So you're giving up like 9 points of median. But this lineup is going to be fairly low owned, right? Still going to have some chalk pieces. Still going to have Gordon, Maladon. Bridges will be somewhat popular with PJ Washington out. Right, we still got Sabonis and Maladon and Brown. So we still got like chalk pieces in here. I don't know how owned Zeller's going to be today. Right, you look at Josh Richardson's in this lineup. So now we're starting to look at lineups that still play chalk and get an ownership discount. And look, we're sacrificing about 8 or 9 points to do so. So based on this current slate, 8 or 9 points would be fine, assuming that the ownership came down with it. I'm going under the assumption that this lineup is leveraged enough for the contest, that this number is going to be lower than obviously the top 40 optimals. So there you go. So on this specific slate, as of right now, as of the 10:13 a.m. projections, 8 or 9 points is fine. There you go. Now, once the value starts coming up, I mean, we start, this guy's going to sit and this guy's going to play and whatever. This may end up being like, you don't want to, it could be to the point where it's sacrificing 15 is fine. It could be to the point in some slates where there's no value that sacrificing 8 or 9 is way too much. Because the players project too closely together. Basically because of the OKC players. And they're pricing down. I don't know. Sabonis is coming down in price. I don't know why. Like they're going to project well. It's going to want to put a lot of lineups with them in it. So in order to fade a Sabonis, I mean, we take a look here at the player pool just by RGV. If you fade Brown, if you fade Sabonis, Eric Gordon is projecting extremely well. Maladon extremely well. Diallo, Rudy Gay a bit, right? If you're going to fade some of these guys, your median projection is going to go down. But your ownership should go down with it. But you have to test this. You have to see what the relative amount of points is for this given slate at this given time with these given projections. So it's not a thing that every day, it's always 8 or 9 every day. No, it's not always 8 or 9 every day. And also, you have to scale that to the field size. You're playing a 100-man contest, you're probably still not even giving up 8 points of median. You don't have to. You don't have to get that much leverage. Large field, yeah, you are. Playing a 30,000 person field, yeah, then you are. Probably sacrificing 10 points, 11 points, 14 points even on this slate based on the relative value of the lineups. So that's what I need to see, what the relative value of the lineups are. How many are there? Right? Because look, top 40 in this scenario with all those groups, 292 at the top. The 40th is 289. There's probably another 100 that's 288, 287, like there's just so many of them now. Because these players aren't going to project all that much different once you start getting down with it. Then that's the limit where you say, okay, I don't have to give up much more median because any lineup I choose has around the same median anyway with the same ownership. But there's no distinct number. There's no exact number. Well, how much? Well, it depends on the slate. And you go, well, it depends on the slate side. No, it depends on the projections of the players. It depends on what positions they're even at. How do lineups get formed? We have slates where you see small forward, there's no one of value. Like you just, like that's not, it's going to force you to play a certain players in the small forward spot because of that. So that's going to affect the total projection of your lineups. So I know I get this question so much. How much this? How much that? There's no number. There's no specific number. Some slates, 3 may be too much. Some slates, 15 is perfectly fine. That's why using a tool like Lineup HQ, which is for premium members, you get our premium projections. Right? Take a look at our projections team. They're not the most attractive people, but they know what they're doing. They decide to put it on the little advertisement anyway. You get that. You get the lineup HQ. You could use this as a tool, even if you're hand building, even if you're just doing single entry 3-max. This is what the past month, I've been playing single entry and 3-max stuff. I have not been massively multi-entering. I still use lineup HQ as much as if I did. So I'm doing things like I'm showing you right now. What do these types of lineups look like? Then once I get ownership, now I have something to compare it to. Let's see. Going through the YouTube chat some more. If you got any questions, some last questions, feel free to post in the YouTube chat. That apple juice is not cold anymore. You're not giving enough thummy thumbs, so give some of the thumbs. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything else in the chat. Ronald Coley says, did you say the further you get from the optimal lineup score, the less ownership you should have? Yeah, of course. Why would you want to play a lineup that projects 5 points lower with the same amount of ownership? You're just giving up 5 points for nothing. Just saying, just gonna give it to me and say thank you. That would be a negative EV lineup. If I could build a lineup that projects 5 points higher than you, and we're both gonna be the same ownership, like, why would you do that? Yeah, it could. Yes, you're right. On one slate, it could win. But I'm talking, if you build those types of lineups in the long run, you're going to be a losing player. But you see tons of them in the contests. You see tons of them in there. Let's see. And this is for GPP. Like for cash games, you don't even care about ownership at that point, practically. Just play the best median build that you can. That has the narrowest range of outcomes. You just have to get above the double up line. That's it. You don't have to come in first. You don't need leverage to come in first in a double up. It doesn't do you any good. You don't get paid anymore. So I hope you get everything out of the pregame show. I mean, it's not a show for picks and plays and stuff. Like even going through these lineups. I mean, are these guys plays? Are we playing Eric Gordon today? Does that happen? I don't even know. This is the first time I'm even looking at it. Rudy Gay. Okay, I guess so. Right, because we have Aldridge out. We got SGA out. Who knows? Who else is going to be out? Westbrook probably sitting on a back-to-back. Is that confirmed? I don't know. Someone will tell me. I'll get the RotoGrinders alert when that happens. Right? You can download the RotoGrinders app, and the news comes to you. You don't have to worry about it. So feel free, hit the thumbs up button on the way out if you're on the podcast feed. Hey, podcast people, rate and review in iTunes. We got a big slate today. Hopefully all the games happen, right? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 10 games. You never know. What's the late game? Let's see what game is going to screw us. And the Boston-Sacramento game. COVID tracing. You're done, right? Free roll time, right? Hopefully that doesn't happen. But we'll see. But we'll go over the slate and we'll review it tomorrow. And then do what we always do every day. This is what I do in the morning normally. I can't believe they pay me to do this. This is what I do in the morning, other than I'm not just yelling to no one, right? I'm talking to you guys. This is what I do. This is how I research. This is how I play. Maybe it'll work for you. Maybe it doesn't work for you. But understand these concepts. And you should become a more profitable player at DFS. And that's what I aim to do, as long as you stay out of my contests. I don't want you to be in my contest when you get better, but hopefully I could stay ahead of you. Hopefully I could still be a little bit ahead of you as I teach you the concepts of playing DFS like a professional player, which you could get the 15-hour audio masterclass at theoryofdfs.com. If you want all these structured education, you get bits and pieces in this show, right? If you want it all in one place, an encyclopedia of daily fantasy sports game theory, with me and James McCool. 15 hours of audio that you could listen. You could listen to it on repeat if you want. 3 months down the road, 3 years down the road, it'll still apply. So go pick that up at theoryofdfs.com. And I'll see you tomorrow on another edition of the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders.com.